Today we have the fabulous Tatianna Taylor-Tait. She is an award-winning interior designer, short-term rental specialist, and co-founder of the Level Up Your Listing Summit. Welcome, Tatianna, to the show.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here today. I can't wait to dive into whatever questions you got for me.
I know this is going to be so good. And I love it too, because I feel like I have been following you for a while, but then we really connected at a conference earlier this year. And I'm like, you are a woman of my own heart. So fabulous.
No, Nashville was really good. And I think it was a good moment, especially for, I have seen you online and everyone was always like, do you know Olivia? You need to talk with her. And I was like, I don't know her. She's super colorful from what I can see online. And I was like, I feel like we would vibe. And then of course, got to know you better in Nashville and absolutely agree. I love everything about you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, so you have a phenomenal story, just literally everything about it. So I actually want to start, before the interior design, before the short-term rentals, all of that. Who was Tatianna?
Before all of that. I feel like sometimes it's so hard to be like, what was that second life that
I know, right?
So before that, when I first I guess before my big part of my story is I actually I did school, university, and was working a 9 to 5 in sales. And at the same time, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So even when I was working the 9 to 5 in sales, I was still doing a side job of graphic design and marketing, because that's originally what I went to school for. And I just knew, I was at some point, no matter what it is, I am going to be an entrepreneur. People would ask me, what do you want to do for your career or job? And I would just be like, entrepreneur. And they're like, but what? And I'm like,
what does that mean?
It'll come. Yeah. We're still figuring that part out. And as I was working, so my plan this whole time was to work this 9 to 5, because I don't know if you know much about Vancouver, but where I live, the cost of living is extremely high, insane. So dreams and aspirations were the side gig, and I had to work the 9 to 5 hustle to try to get that to happen. And for me, I wasn't much of a risk taker back then. So I was doing my best to be okay, I'm going to do the 9 to 5 and I'm going to save the money and I'm going to build the business, and all the things that now that I'm thinking about, I was just going about it all wrong. And that's okay. I feel like you have to go through those motions to understand, but it wasn't until, my rug, if you can say, was ripped out right from under me, and I got laid off from a job. And so I got laid off from that 9 to 5. And here we're lucky we get employment insurance. So even though I was laid off, I got paid severance and everything for that, to kind of help me get through while I was stressing out about how I was going to pay my bills and make this job run. So during that time, as I'm thinking that this is my rock bottom, my dog got sick.
Oh my gosh.
And he was doing okay. We did a bunch of things, but during that time, he held on. And I like to think, it makes me emotional even thinking about it. I like to think he held on because he knew. But about a month after the layoff and knowing that my dog was sick, I actually lost my mom in a tragic car accident on Halloween night. And life cannot prepare you for anything. Anyone who has lost someone in their life, it is so hard. And the emotions and the anger that you feel, it's so hard to explain. I pushed people away from me in my life that I feel guilty about to this day that I pushed away. And I went through all the different steps of grief that they say that you go through. And shortly after that, like I said, I like to believe that my dog held on because he knew. I actually had to put him down because he got too sick to be able to continue a way of life that actually would be worth living for him. So that officially I dubbed as my rock bottom.
Yeah.
I thought I was at rock bottom before, but it wasn't until going through all those other experiences and, what you really, that's definitely a rock bottom from what you can tell. But still at that point, I felt so lost. I was angry. I was upset. I was grieving and trying at the same time to think that I still needed a 9-to-5 job and like trying to be like, well, what am I going to do? But I hit a breaking point where I was like, you know what? I don't know what is what anymore. I can't, obviously, I'm not in a mindset where I could be like working for a company, let alone, helping myself. So I just needed to switch things up and I needed to switch up my scenery and just get away for a little while. So I booked a one-way ticket, which ended up being 6 weeks. I did to Europe and kind of just went abroad to go find myself on some solo travel. Everyone thought I was insane, but it.
I mean, rightfully so, though. Right? Oh my gosh, that's so crazy, and it really is so insane because really, as humans, it's like a lot of the time we don't make change until it's so bad, until we hit that rock bottom or until, someone passes away or you get laid off from your job or, you get in a really bad accident or whatever that looks like. And it's just like, I'm still kind of like figuring out how do we like really start to make change before it gets to that rock bottom point? Like, how do we really, because at the end of the day, we only have one life to live, right? And we might as well live it with, so much life and zest and doing the thing that we actually want to do, building the life that we want to live.
I 100% agree with you. And I think it is like, I do believe if I'm uncomfortable and if I don't make a change, that the universe does conspire to force me out of that situation some way or another.
Oh my gosh, 100%. That's like, so I knew I needed to quit my job for the longest time, but didn't. And it was so funny because I remember even when I wanted to quit my job, at first I was trying to look for other like jobs that I could transition into first and then, go full in on investing. And it's like, I kept losing out on all of these jobs. And it's like the universe just knew I was supposed to be a full-time entrepreneur. And it was like, jump right in.
100. Oh my goodness. Yes. And like, I think back, like even to this day, I'm a true procrastinator at heart of everything that I do, but it is that same thing. I like to think, even though it's not always healthiest, I'm a high functioning stress person. So if my back's against the wall, that is when I truly shine, or that's like when I feel like the opportunities truly present themselves. Do not recommend it always, but that is one other thing.
Right. It's like, if you can avoid it, let's do that.
Do the healthy thing, please.
Oh my gosh. So I guess tell me too about your trip to Europe, because, with this podcast too, like everyone knows my brand. I talk about traveling all the time. Yeah. It's a big part of my why. Like, how did that trip transform you? And like, what did you learn during that trip?
It was so interesting in so many ways because and this is why I highly recommend, and I'm sure you agree with this, everyone at some point in their life should do solo travel.
Yes.
It's really where you find yourself. You learn so many things about you, as well as like how to connect and communicate with other people. And those skill sets really do apply in, being an entrepreneur, the ability to connect, communicate, and network with others. But for me, like, there were no like confinements on me. Like I could say, act, do what I wanted to do without having to think about or worry about what someone else wanted to do. That's one of the reasons to always solo travel. You don't have to be confined to someone else's schedule. But it really allowed me to just like act in a way and, feel a certain way about myself, about the things I was experiencing. And I found like, I don't know, I really kind of bettered my relationship with myself.
Yes.
And understanding, I had the ability to kind of like understand the grieving process more and what I went through and embrace that. And I shared that story on my journey as I was traveling Europe. I went to, I think, almost 6 different countries, and I got to meet new people, and I got to share that story in my journey and like what I was passionate about while experiencing new things. And I came back honestly like a whole new person.
Ugh, I love that. And that is so true. Like literally solo traveling, you just learn how to be so comfortable with yourself and accept yourself the way you are, because there's literally no one else to lean on. Right. And you know, you make friends and things like that. And I've literally traveled and made some core human like friends for life. But most of the people you do meet is kind of transient. So you're constantly in new environments around new people, having to introduce yourself. So the only person you really know at the end of the day is yourself.
Yeah.
But that's such a beautiful place to be, because it also gives you the opportunity. I think I like read it in a book, actually. It's like your travel self is really who you are at your core, especially on solo travel, because there's no like, you don't have the judgments of anyone else around you, the people that know you. It's just you and who you are and want to be at that time.
I believe in that so much. And I think that's so true, because there's so many times like I feel, you know, we work, and we get so stuck in our daily routines. And like a lot of people are like, oh, I just need a vacation. I just want to travel. And like, it's the same for me. Like, I think I literally booked a trip. I'm going back to Tulum in July.
Yes,
I just need to do some yoga and have a new healthy routine and clear my head, you know, like to just kind of like have a reset. But then everyone else is like, you were just on vacation. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh. No, but it's like, I don't know. I'm very much an ebb and flower. Like I work really hard, but I also like take breaks really hard too and frequently. And I like that like cycle and that balance versus like, I think some people feel a lot better with working for 8 months straight and then taking a couple of weeks off. But like that literally would kill my soul.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So just a really random, a little bit off topic, but what was your favorite country in Europe that you went to?
Oh man, Spain. I loved Barcelona.
Oh my gosh.
There were 2 places. So like I did Barcelona. I went to Greece, to Athens and Santorini. Italy, I did Rome, Paris, London, Amsterdam. And out of all of those places, I was like, you know, I could really see myself living in Barcelona. And I was like, and I could see myself being successful in business in London.
Yes, so freaking fair. I know. Like, honestly, both of them have such a special place in my heart, because I was born in London. So like, I'm literally going back for 10 days later this year because it's my cousin's wedding. And I'm like, amazing excuse to go see the fam and be a Londoner. Fabulous. But then I love Barcelona too, because like I did a month there when I was 14. Became absolutely obsessed, learned Spanish, and just like the vibes, the energy, the culture is so good.
Oh man, don't remind. I keep telling my fiance, I was like, we have to go back. You're going to love it. I want to buy an apartment there. We're going to do this.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, so like after this trip, what happened? Like, how did you start getting into the short-term rentals, the interior design, all of that? Like, walk me through that.
Yeah. Well, and I think definitely going on that trip shifted my energy, which I think is probably a big contributor to the opportunities that came my way. So at the time, as we know, I was unemployed or laid off. And I was still doing graphic design and marketing like work on the side as gigs came. From there, I had a friend who put me in connection with this developer who was looking for an interior designer for like a quick job, like needed like, hey, we have a situation, we need to figure it out. Like, please, we need an interior designer. And like, for me, I was like, interior design, graphic design, color theory, there's similarities. And I was like, okay, I'll just say yes. Cause like I always had an interest in interior design. And I just wanted to explore it. And so he gave me the first job. I think it was how many bedrooms? It was like a 3-bedroom home that was getting put on Airbnb. It was an investment for his clients. And so I decorated it and designed it within a budget that clearly does not exist nowadays. But basically, I decorated it. I loved what I did. The clients loved what I did. The developer loved it. And from there, he was like, hey, do you want to do more projects? And I was like, well, for me, I'm always like, I got to learn everything before I like jump into it. But I was like, yes, I'll take more projects on. But, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own business. So I'm just going to like do contract work with you. And as you have them, just like, let me do it and we'll go from there. So as that happened, even though I always had my own business, he pretty much brought me on full time.
Yeah.
And I learned everything on the job site with him. And it wasn't just me doing interior design for furnishing places. It ended up being new builds, heritage restoration, all just normal renovations from the ground up. And during that time, I was like, okay, I'm in a position where like I actually need to learn certain things like floor plans and like how to like do rendering. So I did do some design schooling for it. I did, and it definitely helped along the way. But I do have to say, nothing really gave me as much experience as doing it in person versus what I've learned in school. But I'm also very grateful now that I do have like the marketing and the graphic design background, because as an entrepreneur, there's so many hats that we wear. And during that time, so I took in as much information and experience as I could from him. Our agreement was always that, like, of course, I still have my own business. I'll help build yours. But at the end of the day, when it's time for me to step out, I'm going to step out. And I did help him build his business. I ended up being the VP of his company. I grew my way up, and within like a short, I want to say like 3 years. And from there, I basically felt like I learned everything that I could learn. And I just like took, cause he was all about like Airbnbs and short-term rentals. But it's so funny because like the knowledge that he had then, I'm so grateful that I got that, because I would not be where I am today without, that experience and mentorship from him.
Totally. No. Okay. So a few amazing points that I want to touch on. So a lot of people, and it's so funny because I have an interior design business as well. I would say it's honestly more of a side hustle. My main focus is on my coaching program, but like at least my business partner Anita and I, we just like love doing it for the fun of it more than everything else. Maybe later down the line, we'll really like ramp it up business wise. But for now, it's just like a fun brain break, side hustle kind of thing. Yeah. But so a question we get all the time is like, oh, did you like go to design school, stuff like that? I'm like, no, we just kind of like started doing it and learned as we went. But like, this is with literally everything in life. Experience trumps everything. Yeah. And the experience that you got doing construction work and like managing those projects and all of that, like, you know, more than most designers out there that went to like the best interior design schools and things like that. Like, you have so much more knowledge because you actually went there and did the thing.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like I'm still an everyday student in so many ways, because there's always new designers or different designers that are like, oh, like I'm doing it this way. And it's like, oh, that's actually seems very smart. Why did like, please teach me. But I feel a lot of the things with schooling, like, as I said, I'm very grateful for like my marketing background and things that I've used that in so many different ways. But for, you know, like the design side, other than like renderings, which you still don't even like learn to the extent of what you want to, but like they do not teach you the business side, how to build really the communications, how to price yourself, like any of that is really what's the most important. And I feel like I'm still like ironing kinks out of like what I want exactly like our process to be.
No, completely. And it's like the design school, it adds credibility though, which I will say is helpful, especially if you're trying to differentiate yourself from some other folks. So like, if you know, like it's something you deep down want to do, sure, it never hurts to like add on some education, like formal education. but it's just not always 100% necessary. So I guess for you, what is a major mistake that you see other people making in interior design, especially for, rental properties?
Okay. So, because I have definitely for rental properties and for like the residential side.
Yeah, which are
For-
totally different.
For rental properties, I think the biggest mistake that I see, especially when it comes to like short-term rentals or investment properties, is it's like sometimes people don't combine the two. Like, yes, investors are really good at running the numbers for like their investment and the overall purchase they made, but they don't think about the data and the numbers behind the design and the furniture and like what that actually costs and how valuable understanding that is. Like, you really need to understand. You could buy a house anywhere, but if you don't actually understand why people are coming to that house, and your like guest avatar of who's actually staying there, you can't design a home that is going to give you maximum profitability if you don't understand that.
Yeah, and it's like not all areas and markets even make sense. Like, it was so funny.
Exactly.
I saw an Instagram post the other day, and it's just literally a freaking adorable A-frame. It was like this person's primary residence, but she's like moved to the city and is selling it. So cute. I'm like, oh my gosh, obsessed. If it were in a different location, would be a phenomenal Airbnb. And it was so funny because like someone posted underneath and they're like, oh, an investor is going to snatch that up and like put it on Airbnb. And then I was just curious. So I went and looked at the numbers. I'm like, would literally be a terrible short-term rental. Like, the numbers do not support purchasing it as an investment property. I highly doubt an investor is going to come here and snatch this up.
Well, or it's going to be an investor that doesn't understand the in and outs of Airbnb. Like
Exactly. And that's why it's like interior, especially if you're designing it for a rental property, like you have to understand the numbers. They go hand in hand. You're buying it as an investment that can be fun and cute. And that's the beautiful thing about short-term rentals, but the numbers have to make sense.
And that's a good point. It reminds me because like my fiance does this all the time. He always is like, we've been actively looking for a property in Tulum. Yes. And there's so many beautiful ones. And he keeps like showing me, or you'll send me all these links. And at this point, I'm like not looking at them all. Don't tell him. But like, he's sending me all these ones. He's like, did you check this one out? It's great. Did you check this one out? And I'm like, no, it doesn't fit what we need. The numbers don't make sense. And he's like, well, like it would still be good. And I'm like, nope. End of conversation.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know I've looked at properties in Tulum as well. My struggle right now is like, you need to pay in cash, basically. Well, like you can put a deposit, but then once it's, especially if you're doing a new build, right? Like once it's completed, you need it like come with full cash. And I'm like, okay, yes, I could do that, or I could get a better return on my money like here in the US right now. So I guess what is like, are you purchasing because of the numbers, or are you purchasing more so just because you want a vacation home there that you can also go to? Because like when I think of buying it, once I purchased my place in Colorado, I'm buying in Italy. I like care about the numbers, but I'm also okay with it like breaking even and being totally fine,
Yeah. Well, for me, like, of course, if anywhere that I actually have a property, I want to make sure that it's somewhere that I also would like to vacation. Like that's kind of how I look at it. Because of course, like the goal is, of course, we want to build generational wealth for future families and things like that. But for Tulum specifically, it doesn't like, yes, we would have to pay in cash, but the numbers of for me, how I look at it is like, I could invest in something down there, pay it in cash, have it paid out. I own that outright, right? And it's just making profit from there. As here, I cannot pay it out in cash. Like, our houses here are, $1 million, $2 million. You're paying $1 million for a 2-bedroom apartment. I am gonna have to get a mortgage on that. I don't have $1 million lying around. But with that, I still wouldn't own it outright. And like, there's benefits, of course, for owning in Canada and like certain places. But for me, I'm like, okay, this is a house that's already going to be paid off. It's already going to be profiting. I've done my research. I know what type of house we're looking for to make sure that the profits are going to. And then, how I look at it is that money that it is profiting, then I will go buy another house, either where I live or somewhere else.
Yeah. And like, the nice thing about owning outright is that it's pure cash flow. Like you don't have your mortgage expenses, all of that stuff. So like you actually get to pocket all of that money. So I do like that mindset, especially because I don't know. I remember I was looking, I think it was a year or two ago, it's like $250,000 for a stunning condo. I'm like, well, that looks good.
Yeah. Well, and for where, like, this is the thing for Tulum, like, they're building so much right now, and they just opened up the new airport.
Yes.
They're gearing up for 250,000 residents, which is
and
huge.
Are they doing the train tracks there?
The Mayan train. And so basically how I look at it is, because it went, Cancun, then Playa del Carmen became the new Cancun. Now Tulum is going to be the new Cancun. So like, either way, getting in now, like I wish I got in 2 years ago when we were there, but getting in now is definitely still, in my mind, going to be a good decision for the direction it's headed. But you have, with how the numbers are and how they're building, it only makes sense for me personally. Other people, of course, make your own decision, but like it only makes sense for me to invest in a 3-bedroom or more.
Okay, so do I have something exciting happening for you? So if you have been trying to get into real estate investing, but you find yourself stuck in analysis paralysis, maybe you just don't know where to start or what your next steps are, this event is going to be for you. Now, I do not do this often, but I am going to be hosting a free, and I mean 100% absolutely free, live masterclass on September 17th on how you, yes, you can get started investing in real estate by the end of 2024. Because y'all, we are already halfway through the year, people, okay? Approaching Q4 at this point, and there is so much time for you to make this real estate investing goal of yours a reality. I also think this is going to be my last free masterclass of the year. So this is going to be the last opportunity that you will have to come and learn from me live and get all of your questions answered by yours truly. Now it is time for you to get into the room with people doing exactly the thing that you want to do. So if you want to come to this completely free live event, DM me the word freedom on Instagram or click the link in the show notes to sign up there. And I will see you there. I'm so freaking stoked. Now let's dive back into the show. That makes sense. That makes sense. I love that. So I guess I have a question. So before when we were talking, you said that at the beginning, before you'd really jumped into full-time entrepreneurship, you're kind of doing the side hustle thing. You were going about it all wrong. So like, what were you doing wrong? What was that mindset shift, or how would you have corrected yourself, I guess, from the beginning?
And I think, so it definitely, the scarcity mindset, I think, is what it was doing. Is I wasn't taking a risk, and I had that mindset of being like, I can just save my way to wealth. That does not exist.
Gosh. Nope. You're going to be saving for a long time.
That does not exist. And it's literally, but it's also because my family did not come from money. I did not have any kind of like actual knowledge. Like I still today am like ordering whatever finance books and like things that I can learn, because they don't teach financial literacy to us. My family didn't have it. So really, like I was the first one to actually go to university. So for me, that was huge to be able to learn. Like I saw a lot of what you should not do.
Right.
And that was kind of like, okay, this is what we should not do, but what can we do? And because I also grew up with not much, like we didn't come from money, that also did kind of give me that scarcity mindset where I was like, well, like, it's not going to last forever. Like, how do we make sure that we have some? And like, for me, I wish I didn't think like that back then, because it would have got me to the same place, I feel like, but it would have been a lot faster than it took me. Like my dad always jokes that I always take the hard way. It's always the hard way. It's never, there's no clear path.
Oh my gosh. That is fair. Yeah. And it's like, there's so much you just don't know. So it's so important to get yourself around other entrepreneurs, other real estate investors, because you can have all of all these ideas in your brain of how it's supposed to go. And I can assure you right now, it is not going to go like that at all.
No, but I do have to say that I am grateful a lot of the times that I did take the hard way, because like I am resilient as hell, and I can hustle, and I'm scrappy, and I would not have I would not have those traits if I didn't have to crawl my way through the trenches from time to time.
100%. And it's so important to be scrappy at the beginning. Like, that's all you got. You got your grit, your perseverance, your ability to never give up. Oh my gosh. So I guess, especially with your marketing background, like, how have you positioned yourself in the interior design space and because you also have a co-hosting business, right, too? So how have you really differentiated yourself and positioned yourself to stand out?
I think it's funny because I kind of fell into it recently more than ever. I think in our world right now, I've more positioned myself because I'm big on the psychology of space. So I think about, ways to incorporate well-being and mental health throughout your space more than just something flashy that's going to grab people's attention. And I think there's a lot of people that do appreciate that type of design and like that. And I think that's separated me apart because growing up, that's how, our spaces really really not only affected me, but affected my mother, who dealt with bipolar disorder when we were children. And so seeing how our space and the atmosphere we were in really affected her moods, it stuck with me. And of course, being a young kid growing up, you don't understand what that means. But it wasn't until I actually started designing spaces that I was like, okay, this makes sense, and we can actually create spaces that allow us to be our best selves. And I think that's what I'm really passionate about, is creating spaces that are a true reflection of the people that are living in them.
Okay, I absolutely love that. It's so funny. I was literally talking to a friend yesterday and earlier today. It's I want some sort of a TV show where we combine transforming people's spaces, but then also adding the personal development and travel into it. I'm I don't know what this TV show is going to be exactly, but I have a vibe I want to evoke, and it's all about really changing the inside through the exteriors and the experiences and the space, because I'm big on everyone knows I've been like this literally forever, but I have loved decorating my own. I remember when I went to college, my place, my room would always be done super cute from day one, decorated, and it's very me, right? So fun and homey, but just still good vibes. And it really does change how you go into your day, the work that you do, how you feel. And it that's why I just love that you focus on the psychology of space, because it is so freaking cute.
You gotta just pitch it. Hello, HGTV.
Come on, I know you don't know me, but
email with multiple bullet points, and we could do this and that.
It's there's no clear idea just yet, but I have a vibe that I'm going for.
What are those, the mind maps where you have
oh my
one
God.
thing with 100 things connected to it?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's
love it.
Literal gold.
Science. I would accept your pitch. There you
right?
go.
Bring you on the show. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess it's kind of and it's so funny because we're talking about Karamo earlier, but with Queery, I think it's I'm kind of getting some sort of an idea from that, because they do the whole thing where they change the space. They have Karamo, who's the I guess mental health expert, and they do all these little things, but I want to add travel in there because I don't know how though.
I think that would be cool. If with the travel aspect, taking people through, local markets or things that are local attractions, and kind of tying that in through, because I don't know, there's so many. I'm a big movie or TV show person, And it was funny because I guess I might be just emotional lately, but last night I watched this movie, Eric, which is like, it's a thriller on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
But it's like a thriller and the kid goes missing and all these things, but like the like hidden connections along the way. And like, it's all about it in New York. So it's showing certain things about New York and like the city. And like, I was just like more involved in like the connections and like how it influenced people's lives throughout as they grew up. And I'm like trying to like say this to my fiance as I'm like bawling my eyes out. Like, yeah, it was a good show. And I'm like, no, but you don't understand.
Oh my gosh. Love that so much. Oh my gosh. Okay. So another thing that you've done with your business partner, Natalie, is you've created a phenomenal short-term rental conference called Level Up Your Listing. So tell me about how that even came to play, because I know that there are so many people out there who are like wanting to create community and wanting to create something cool like that. So how did you and Natalie come up with the idea? How did it even start? And for anyone who is, and we can, maybe this is too many questions in one, but for anyone who is trying to do something like that, what's some advice you'd give to them?
Yeah. Well, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I came across Natalie's profile and I thought she was super funny. So I slid into her DMs and I was like, hey, we should do like a online workshop together. And she was down. So we created the Level Up Your Listing workshop.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like a lot of people don't actually know that, but we did a one night workshop. I think it was 1 or 2 nights, workshop just on Zoom. And we had people sign up for that. And we taught them how to, increase bookings on their listing, ways to optimize their listing, and how to make sure that they're getting 5-star reviews with their guests. And it did okay. I think it didn't do like phenomenal. It did
right.
good. And we really helped the people that came to the workshop. And from there, we were like, okay, we like this. We just got to figure out how to market it better.
Right.
Work from there. But at that time, I was signed up to go to STR Wealth. And I texted Natalie and I was like, hey, are you coming to this? And she's like, oh, I was thinking about it. Do you think I should go? And I was like, at this point, Natalie and I have never met in real life. And I was like, yeah, you should come. You can come stay in my hotel room with me. And then I'm going to this house with all these other like short-term rental industry people.
Oh my gosh.
You can split my room and we can just share a bed if you're cool with that. And she's like, sure. And I guess at the time, I'm pretty sure her husband was like, but you don't know this girl. But she took the risk and I'm so glad she did. Because that experience obviously created a beautiful friendship and partnership. And as we were at STR Wealth, we were learning so much, but we felt that a lot of it was very like that masculine energy of being like, well, how much money do you make? And how many doors do you have? And, I love Bill and Mike, of course, but for that, I was like, this is like, but what about the design? Everyone talks about design, and what about the passion behind hosting? And like, for me, cause like at the end of the day, like the money's a plus, but I absolutely love hosting. I love hospitality. I love designing spaces, and I'm probably annoying, but I just always want to make sure I'm like checking in on the guests. Are you having a good time? How can we make sure you are? But no, yeah, Natalie and I kind of just looked at each other, and after talking to some other ladies in the room and stuff, we were like, we want to create something like this for ourselves, for the space for women. Because there were so many like female voices that weren't getting that stage time that they deserved, or, weren't being able to share their story. And some of them like have some of the most inspiring and impressive stories that I've heard. And we were like, okay, we can make a space for this, but it has to like have the flair of the design, like the community of it being a safe space to talk, no matter what level you're at. And so that was something that we kind of said yes to, and we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into or like how much work it would be. But I'm so proud of us because, we pulled it off. and it continues to grow. And I'm only excited for what we do next year. So yeah, that's kind of Level Up Your Listing was born, and we just keep getting better and bigger. And I am so grateful to the community that we've built.
No, and I absolutely love it too, because it was so funny because I remember at the summit, we were talking about, oh, are you going to do another one? And it's so funny because like when you're in the trenches, and this is anything we do, it could be getting started investing in real estate, getting started doing a business, whatever. Sometimes you're in the trenches and you're like, I don't know, like this is a lot of work. This is hard. I'm tired. Like, is this worth it? I don't know. But like when it comes through and when it happens and you just feel the energy from the people around you, the impact that you're making, it's like, how can you not keep doing that? Like it almost feels like a disservice not to keep doing it.
And that is really what pushes us through. Like I know Natalie shared on her stories earlier this year before we had our second event, and it was a serious conversation we were having because it is expensive. It's multiple six figures to like get these things on, and it's a lot of work. It's hours on end of Natalie and I talking on Zoom and connecting with sponsors and other suppliers to put these events on. And we also, at the same time, you have to be like ahead of the curve and like the trends and anticipating what people will need while like still running our own businesses. And like Natalie has her family and all these things. Like it's a lot. And for us, we were like, well, is it really worth it? Because as you said, in the trenches, you're not hearing those stories, that impact that you're making. You're filling your mind with doubt and like, oh, what if no one buys? What if no one comes? Like all these things. And at the end of the day, like Natalie and I's passion behind Level Up Your Listing isn't, again, about us making money. Our passion is we want to create a community for people to feel it, that they're in a safe space where they can learn, where they can like change their lives. Because at the end of the day, like this business, getting into short-term rentals, getting into real estate has changed my life more than I could ever think. Like if I went back to talk to like, 10-year-old Tatiana, her mind would be blown.
Right.
What? You have your own interior design company and like have invested in properties and done all these things. Like I couldn't even comprehend. And I don't know, Level Up Your Listing. Like now, once we are at the summit and it's on, and all the amazing, beautiful people, men and women now, because we are open to everyone attending, and just showing how much it has impacted them makes all the hard work, all the like tears and stress worth it in the end.
I love that so freaking much. Like, and it just shows like when you find purpose in something, like nothing can stop you. Truly. Nothing can.
The saying. What is the saying when it's like you can work, like it doesn't even matter how much money it is when you're talking about it. It's you can just work until you're like
100%. 100%. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been so fabulous. I'm going to go into the last segment, which is the final 3 interview questions that I ask every single person who comes onto the show. So the first one is, what does your ideal perfect day look like?
Oh, I love that. It's funny thinking about that and like kind of relating to like the early 20s version of me. I am honestly living what that version of my ideal perfect life would be, or like perfect day, is like I wake up, I make my own schedule. Like I have my personal training sessions with my trainer a couple times a week, or I'll do yoga or boxing in the mornings. I then will mosey on in when I want to do work, or I'll have like projects that I have to go check out and do, and just the day-to-day kind of like running of the boutique design firm. But basically like that, I guess, would have been my ideal day in my early 20s. Now, as I'm 32, I had to think about that for a second, but I'm 32, and like as I shift, like it's definitely very much the same, but I think there's just like more, I would like more structure or like, consistency of some things, if that makes sense. So like maybe every morning, instead of like, some days I'll do it and some days I won't, maybe every morning I'll wake up, do a gratitude and some journaling and a meditation. Like I think more now my ideal day is surrounded by health and wellness, and that focus. And then of course, running the business and getting into from there. And of course it wouldn't hurt if like I was in a beautiful view in Italy or something, but yeah.
No, I love that. And it's so funny because I'm kind of starting, and I turned 30 later this year. So I'm kind of starting, and I wasn't expecting it to happen so soon, but I'm craving more structure as well nowadays. Like even kind of like what I was saying is I'm not traveling this summer. That's huge for me. Like, I just want to be in one place, do the same things, do like, at least, and for me, it's like a little bit different because, I mean, I think this is for you too. Every day is different, but I want to make sure I'm hiking at least once a week. And I want to make sure I'm doing X at least once or twice or 3 times a week, whatever that looks like. And I just want it to be consistent for a hot second and probably for the rest of my life.
Well, and that's so true, because one of the things when you're traveling or like when it is conference time for all of us, and or even for me when I'm finishing certain projects, it's like a rush to the finish line, or like there's so many things, like everything's up in the air. So all the things of like, meditating, yoga, going to the gym, eating right, that honestly goes out the window.
Yeah.
So it's like finding the balance in that. And then maybe we are just getting old, and those are the things I appreciate now.
I love it. Honestly, I am loving getting older, other than the fact that like I'm a little less active, but that is not because I'm getting older. That's just because I have prioritized it less, and we're bringing it back. You're bringing it back.
Tomorrow is always a new day.
Literally, I'm going on a sunrise hike tomorrow. So, okay, question number 2. What is your mantra?
Ooh, kind of, I guess in the same fashion. I've always said you can't be your best if you're not at your best. So for me, that means like if my mental health, if my physical health, if those things aren't in check, I can't be the best, partner or designer or friend to people in my life. So I think that's a big priority for me, and I like to live by that.
Love that. That's fabulous. Okay, last question. What does wealth mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like I'm going to sound so woo-woo.
No, do the woo. So literally, I'm telling you, like my intro for this podcast, it's like I talk about how this is a mix of woo as well as real estate investing and entrepreneurship. So you're good. Bring on the woo, girl.
For me, like, it's so funny because, of course, being younger, when I look at wealth, I was like, oh, financially making money. Like that's what that looked like at a younger thing. But for me now, it's more like, it's more than just the financial. It's, spiritually, emotionally, and like the mental well-being behind it, and being able to find like the balance in that type of wealth is what I value more than ever, because I feel like that's the foundation to a meaningful life, but also gives you the skills to be able to kind of like go with those ebbs and flows, the ups and downs that life throws at you. So, obviously financially that helps a lot. I can hear in the background in my mind, the money can't buy happiness.
I
know. But, money does help. But at the end of the day, like if you can be wealthy in those other areas of your life, there's, what a good point is, some of the wealthiest people in the world are poorer in other areas of their life.
So like, so unhappy.
Right? There's so many people that have so much money, but they're battling their own demons, or they may have other issues in their life. And I think really life is about balance and kind of like figuring out ways to master those different areas, and then the universe pays it forward for doing so.
Yep. And also just figuring out what works for you, right? Because balance is going to look very different for different people. I feel like, especially 100%. In the US, right? I have a lot of my more American friends who are workaholics, which is totally fine because I'm also a workaholic to an extent. Like people would say that I'm a workaholic, right? But I, at least for the way that, and this is just because I have grown up like this. I've always been like this. I'm such a work hard, play hard girl. And I like to take my breaks. I like to have that time to think and not do anything work, anything business, sometimes for an extended period of time. And that's just like, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship is you get to build it the way that you want to do it.
Yes. Love that.
I love that. So what is the best way for people to reach out for you? Maybe it's for interior design, or maybe it's for a level up your listing, or just to chat.
Yeah. Best place to reach out to me is probably on Instagram. It's at Tatianna TT. So TATIANNATT. Or on my website, which is TatiannaTaylor-Tait.com. And you can find my email there if you just want to chat.
I love it. Perfect. Well, this was so fun, so wonderful. Just make me happy. Thank you so much for listening to Wonderlust Wealth Show. Now, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love this episode, it would literally mean the world to me if you shared this with a friend or a family member, or literally like anyone off of the street. Like right now, go ahead, share it so you don't forget, or post it on social media and make sure to tag me. I love seeing what you're listening in on and what you resonated with, and I'm just so freaking thankful for you. I'm so freaking excited for you. I love you, and don't forget, life really doesn't have to be hard.